for Euro 2024. So does Kobbie Mainoo have a future in England's midfield very much in the short term?
In the short term, I'm not so sure. I'm not convinced. He is an outstanding player, has unbelievable ability, fabulous potential. He's 14 games in to his career at the moment. For me, it's too early to throw him into the pressures and the cauldron of that. I know people say that, if you're young enough, you're good enough.
And play for Manchester United, high pressure environment.
Results haven't been great. Performance. You're a Man United fan. You can probably pick 4 or 5 games where he's been very good across the whole game. He's been taken off in 10 of those 14 games that he started. There'll be a reason for that. He's a young lad. He's learning the game. Look at players that we've had in the past that have gone in and haven't, Ross Barkley, when he was very, very young, was ripping up the place in club football. Jack Wilshere was sensational. But these players had played 50, 60, 70, 80 games.
I want you to hear me out when it comes to this video, because there's a number of misconceptions. There's a number of false truths. There's some really good points being made here by Danny Mills when it comes to the talent of Kobbie Mainoo and why it's important that he's in this England squad right now. Of course, there is a lot of hype about this young man, and some will say overhyped. Some will say the hype is a reflection of how good he's talented. And the talent of Mainoo, the ceiling is astronomically high. He is an absolute star in the making, potentially, if he keeps working hard, if he keeps progressing, if he surrounds himself in the right environments, in and outside of football. He's got these great opportunities. You've only got to listen to the reports coming out of Liverpool's newspapers and Liverpool's press about how the staff and players at halftime were talking about Mainoo and the qualities that he possessed. The amount of England players that surrounded Southgate when the squad was announced and they were arriving and said, not just Man United players, you've got to go and call this young man up to get him into these ranks to see how he fares. This speaks absolute volumes. Firstly, he's played 20 games so far this season, not 14, across all competitions. And of course, some of that is in the Champions League. This idea that Mainoo is going to freeze under the pressure that comes with playing for England, it's a fair challenge, but you have to look at what he's faced so far at Man United. He has started games away at Anfield. He has started huge Champions League games. He has started big FA Cup games, which we've mentioned, where he was a standout performer. And yes, he's been taken off in a lot of these football matches, but that's because he's young. And I think Erik ten Hag has done the absolute right thing in not running him into the ground like physically as an 18-year-old. He's a man, but an 18-year-old lad in the fledgling stage of his professional career. He has been brilliant in the majority of games that he's played. He's been exceptional in 4 or 5 of those games. He isn't playing as a striker or an attacker where the goals can often mask a very quiet performance. He's in the hub of the team. Now, Man United don't have a great structure. Man United don't have a great system. And he still stands out as one of the best players on the pitch, no matter who he is up against. This cannot be denied. Now, I understand that for a lot of rivals, seeing a young Man United player be praised, a young Man United player getting a lot of credit, is frustrating. You don't want to see it, and I understand that to a very large degree, especially if you're a rival fan of Man United and you don't support England. It will wind you up. And I know they're mentioning Jack Wilshere's, and I know they're mentioning Ross Barkley's. That isn't the level of young player that Mainoo is. Mainoo is in the ilk of Wayne Rooney's. Mainoo is playing in a position that generally takes a long time to become competent at. Your understanding of the game, your feel for the game is so crucial. And 20 games into his professional career, and he is doing it, or 23 games into his professional career, he did make 3 appearances last season as well. He's doing it to a very high standard already. And I think it's imperative that England have him in this squad to test how he handles international football at this stage. Yes, he may not be ready to start every single game throughout the course of a big tournament in the summer, But to come on as a substitute in those games, to start particular matches for certain systems, he could play a very important part. Now, his improvement will continue to soar between now and the end of the season. So testing him now in England is key. And the reason why I mentioned comparing him to Wayne Rooney is Wayne Rooney was only 21 games into his professional career when he made his England debut. He'd only scored 3 Premier League goals, 2 less than midfielder Kobbie Mainoo at that time. I'm very proud of this because he's a Man United Academy graduate. But this young man has the ability to go to the very top of the game, could play for any. He's got the potential to play for any club in the world, no matter where Man United sit in the pyramid. He can play multiple midfield positions. He is an absolute world-class talent. And I say world-class talent because, of course, he is not of a world-class level consistently yet, because he's 18 years of age and 23 games into his professional career. But this is an absolute superstar. And I think what Danny Mills and a lot of people are missing is how good this young man is. This is the only, and I repeat, only central midfield player we have developed at Manchester United since Paul Scholes, who is of this level, barring Paul Pogba. Paul Pogba, Mainoo, they're the only guys that have come out that have been anywhere near a top class to world class level. Lots of good players, a lot of excellent professionals, lots of individuals that are going to have good careers in the Premier League, Championship, and wherever else it may be. But true star quality, Mainoo is the best we have had since Paul Scholes. I actually think he's going to go on and have a better career than Paul Pogba for Man United and in the Premier League as well. Pogba did brilliantly internationally, excellent in his first visit to Serie A, but I believe Mainoo is that good. And that isn't just watching him in these 23 appearances, it's reading and researching about him and the growth in him in these games. And maybe there is an element here of confirmation bias for me because it's how I view young players. But typically when they break through, you can see in a handful of games what star qualities they really have. Do they have a future at the highest level? And every now and then a young player comes through, doesn't really work for them at the beginning, they go away, come back, and they're stronger. But generally speaking, the superstars, whether you're talking about Lionel Messi, whether you're talking about Seedorf, whether you're talking about Paul Scholes, you see it almost straight away, and we have done with this young man. Where Danny Mills is right is you have to temper that expectation. He shouldn't be expected, and we did Wayne Rooney dirty with this, is we expected Wayne Rooney at 18, 19, 20 to be the man that took us over the line, and that should never be the case. The elder statesmen in the team, the John Stoneses, the Maguires, the Declan Rices of this world, the Harry Kanes, that is where the pressure must sit with the tried and tested experienced players. But the youngsters that come through, yes, we want them to perform. Yes, there has to be an expectation upon them, but not the pressures and the weight of the country upon their shoulders that you are the individual that is key and responsible for us being successful. As long as we don't do that to this young man, he is going to have a stellar career. There is nothing about him that states that there's going to be problems with training, there's going to be a problem with attitude, there's going to be a problem with learning and developing. Everything appears to be exactly where you would want it to be. And I, for one, am extremely excited about him as a Man United player in the future, especially if we can fix our culture, especially if we can get the right manager and system in play to really develop him and take him to the next level. But of course, look, my opinion is only my opinion. I don't speak for everybody else. I don't believe my opinion holds more value than any of you watching this video. And I've never believed that once. I believe we've got a player here that can go to the very top of the game. I believe we've got a central midfielder here that over the next 3 to 4 years will develop into a player that will be able to stand toe-to-toe, shoulder-to-shoulder with any central midfield player in the world, say I am, and be highly comparable and be very, very competitive with them. He's a star in the making. It is not too early for him to be part of this England squad. This is a generational talent, a world-class talent that has the ability to reach the very top. And with the right guidance, exposure, and nurturing, he could become an absolute star for England. I'd love to get your views and opinions on this. Do you think it's too early for Mainoo? What do you really think of his abilities and where he's going? Do you side with me that he is this generational talent? Is that a little bit too far? I want to gauge your views. I want to gauge your opinions. I do disagree with what Danny Mills has said here. It isn't too early, but I want to get your opinions on it because they matter more to me than my own Danny Mills or anybody else's, you, the Football Terrace community. Until next time, take care. Goodbye. God bless. And I'll see you all again soon. Peace.